Hey, welcome back to Mike the Baptist. We came back because we knew you were going to be back, and here we are. There you are. What a great planet. It all worked out good. Good to see you guys again here on the Mike the Baptist 3 Preachers series, which we named because y'all are 3 preachers.
It's pretty intelligent.
We thought so.
It's a bit on the nose.
It's what about the nose?
It's a bit on the nose.
I'm a little sensitive about nose jokes, so. Okay, so we already lost track, but that's fine. That's what you expect, and that's why you come. So we're going to.
That's like a first for me. I derailed everything with one comment. Like, I'm proud of myself for that.
No, you've done that before.
It's not the first time.
That's quite often. We've seen that movie before, but it's a good movie. Well, anyway.
It's like Groundhog Day, isn't it?
Yes. Hey, welcome back to HD Jones.
Hey, good to see you, Jackson.
HD is a preacher, so he fits the program nicely. Across the table, the returning Jason Riccardi.
What's up?
Who's also a preacher. And Jason was absent for a couple of episodes there. We don't know where he was. Nobody else does either. It's a mystery. But Jason, you are a man of mystery, so that all works out together as well. There, I said it like the young people. As well. You as well. And Michael Kuntz is back.
Hey, Jackson.
Kuntz is also a preacher, and the newest preacher I know. Not that you're new, but anyway.
We're new to each other.
We're new to each other. You're the most recent preacher I think I've met. Good to have you here. Either way,
Likewise.
No matter why or where you came from. Virginia. I still think you're from Virginia. I don't know why. I got to get that out of my head. It's either Virginia or Egypt.
I was going to say, I always think of Egypt.
It does cross my mind too a little bit, but. Well, we're going to move into a little front porch visit, as we often do. I've heard some comments recently about when we first started doing this 3 Preacher series. They were rather lengthy, and we talked once that maybe we were going to try to tighten them up. And what happened was we wound up with like last episode was an hour and 44 minutes or something a couple episodes ago. So, but then a person told me at my church last Sunday that that was the best one she had ever seen, and was very appreciative of it. And that's all I needed. That's all the fuel I needed to turn these into 3 hours.
So you have one positive response and 40 bad responses.
Yeah, we're going with the positive.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It's like that. It's like me and Joe Rogan. We're just like this now. So 3 hours don't mean nothing. But anyway, so it was a good comment. I like the comment. And I had a comment from H.D. Jones' wife, Susan, yesterday. She and I were talking about, how some people may not want to sit through all the small talk to get to the big talk. Susan made some sort of comment like, well, I'll just have to slow down or something. Just suck it up, or I forget what she said. But
that sounds like her.
Yeah, she made some comment about, that sounds like your problem. So
I hear that at home a lot. So, yeah, that sounds just like her.
Yeah, God bless you. Well, God bless her too.
Yeah.
Amen. We're praying for both of you all over there pretty constantly.
Yes, we are.
Speaking of front porch visits, I was thinking, here again, part of this series is about making preachers look like real folks, just normal folks, which they are. But I know some folks are a little nervous around preachers. I'm not anymore since I found out they sin too. I'm comfortable around them now. My kind of people. But part of what I wanted to do here, and we've been doing it every week, is just kind of talking about odds and ends, just kind of see what your psyches are like, and kind of normalizing even a little more. And one of the ways you can really be normalized that people don't associate with preachers sometimes is the way you talk. I mean, a lot of people have this misconception that all preachers have a real preachy, real, I don't know, spiritual kind of
persona.
Yeah, something like that. That reminds me, I always forget the buzzer here, and the best place to use it is on the preachers episodes, and I always forget to use it. But anyway, so I thought it'd be good on the front porch to talk about miscommunications that you might have had with, let's like family, friends, anybody, where, well, you know what a miscommunication is. I don't have to explain that. We'll start with Jason. It's always a good place to start.
Well, I've got 2 of them that they're just funny to me, and that when you have a product that's shipped from one nation to another, There's stuff that's just lost in communication. Two of my favorite ones when it comes to that is there was a set of knives from Sweden, and when they tried to translate the warning label on it, instead of saying keep out of reach of children, it just said keep out of children. Like, don't stab kids with them. So that's always a good warning. Definitely do that. But my personal favorite one was the Chevy Nova. Sold really well in the United States. Sold exceptionally well in the United States early on, and they thought they'd transport it over to Mexico, and they just kept it the same name in Mexico. So it was the Chevy Nova, and that means in Spanish it doesn't work. So
Nova
Chevy
means
no go.
no work.
Yeah, and the sales were pretty abysmal in Mexico. That's pretty funny to me. But as far as on a personal level, knocking the mic around.
Yep.
On a personal level, my dad and my grandpa, they would always miscommunicate with one another, and like to the point of I remember watching them get into fistfights.
Yes.
They would literally be saying the same thing in different ways, and they would just escalate and get into fights and be yelling, screaming, and have to be separated. And they were saying the same thing. So I just find that always pretty amusing. Communications, it's fun. It's hard.
Well, it is. So yeah, that wasn't quite as insane as what I was anticipating, but it sounds like you abbreviated some of it. Sounds like you could have really expounded on.
Could have, yeah.
But you abbreviated a little bit.
We appreciate that, by the way.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
If you feel led, to abbreviate, then you abbreviate. So that's for the folks that listen fast. We're never giving that up. I mean, they think we're giving that up, but we're not.
Those of you who do it, we love you, but we're probably not going to let it.
We're not going to let it. Yeah, we can't. Koontz, do you have anything in recent memory that you would like to share with our?
Sure. Yeah. So, and it's one of those. I'm thinking. I hope this isn't a deja vu moment because I'm like, I don't think I shared this before with you.
Well, I'm old enough I won't remember, so it'll all be new to me.
We're going to go for it anyway. But some years ago, about 4, 5, 6 years ago. We'd moved to Middle Tennessee, so it's been about 7, 8 years ago. I was going through and we were having to get some type of legal paperwork done. I don't know if it's for a passport or what it was, and I needed a copy of my birth certificate. So my mom sent it to us, and I kind of take after Dad. I just kind of tease people a little bit. So one day I was talking to Mom on the phone. I was like, Mom, my birthday is June the 1st, but this birth certificate says July the 1st of 1974. And she's like, what? I was like, we've never talked about this. It's like, has it just always been a typo? And I was just teasing her. I was joking with her. Well, we got onto something else on that phone call, and I forgot to tell her I was joking. So about 2 or 3 weeks later, she brings it up. She's like, that's really been bothering me about your birth certificate. I've talked to my sisters, I've talked to some friends about this, about what has happened on this. And I was like, oh, by the way, Mom, I'm sorry. That was a joke. That just did not go over.
Mom went to
well.
work on that.
Yeah.
She got to fix it.
So, yeah, Mom got a little mad about that one.
All right, so
You already had 3. Come on.
we had some relatives visiting from another state. This just made me think of this. We had some relatives visiting from another state.
Welcome to staff meeting.
There were a couple of teenagers there, and very smart kids wanting to visit, different colleges while they were down, and so they're intelligent kids. But we went and ate at a restaurant, and one of the kids was like, I don't know really what I want, and he was asking me what he should get, and he said, I'm thinking about this fillet right here. And I said, oh man, we ain't that fancy down here. We actually call it a fillet. And I kept a straight face and just let it go. And then sure enough, when he was ordering, he said, I would like the shrimp and fillet. And then the waitress just kind of was like, you mean the fillet? Inside, I kept a straight face, but inside I was laughing. I'm like, I was just messing with the kid. But lost in communication, yeah.
Yeah.
He figured he'd pick up on it, and he didn't. Yeah.
Preachers get busted on this stuff too, because what you think you're saying and what is heard,
what's being perceived,
are two totally different.
different
I can't tell you how many times I've walked out of the sanctuary and somebody grabbed me and go, hey, here you said this, and this, or I can't believe you don't believe in that. And I'm like, what are you talking about? But one that I just remember distinctly, it was hilarious. So I think I'm trying to do a good thing. We'd had a big work day at the church, and the guys had come in and they'd put down new mulch, and some of the ladies had been inside cleaning the kitchen and wiping down. You just walk. I mean, when you walked on campus, you had that smell. It was Clorox and mulch. Just smelled good and clean. And so I get in the pulpit that morning and I'm like, hey, I just want to thank everybody for coming out yesterday and giving your time. Man, this building looks great. It smells great. Y'all just done a fantastic job. So I go on and I preach, Well, next Monday morning, one of the custodians comes in and sits down in my office and says, hey, do you have a problem with us? I'm like, what do you mean? Well, I heard from several people yesterday that you stood up in the pulpit and talked about how dirty the building was and how everything was such in disarray and that you didn't appreciate our work and all this stuff. And I'm like, it really had nothing to do with, no, it had nothing to do. I love you guys and y'all are doing a great job. I was just trying to, thank the people that came and did extra stuff, and all that. So yeah, it's kind of fun sometimes in communication. Another thing that happened to us back in my accounting days, they sent out a memo to the employees and basically said, hey, you've got comp time, make sure you use it before the end of the year because it doesn't carry over. Well, what a lot of the employees thought that they were saying was, you have comp time that you really don't deserve, and we're going to wipe that out at the end of the year. And they were all ticked off and everything. And I was like, I don't really think that's what they were trying to communicate. So, yeah, a lot of times what is said and what is heard are two totally different things.
I can imagine around a church, probably especially, which is where, I was just saying when we started this out, I was saying, if you've got something, like it usually happens in your families, and I've been sitting there trying to think, I really don't have one that I can come up with. It happens all the time in my family because we, in the green room a little while ago, we were talking about Mexican food restaurant menus, and same three ingredients. They just rearrange it and they put some "ia" or something on the end of the name and call it a new dish. And that conversation went all sorts of different ways. And anyway, wound up with peyote or something. But
oh, I thought it was paoli.
Paoli, yeah, but
aioli.
Well,
maybe
aioli sounds Italian.
It's Greek.
See, this is exactly how this happens. But speaking of a miscommunication in church, now there's still a debate about this. There was an elderly gentleman at our church who was prone. He since passed away, so it's safe for me to tell on him, but he wouldn't have cared while he was here. But anyway, he had a propensity. Is that a word?
Sure.
Sounds pretty good. He had a propensity for telling stories that went almost inappropriate at times, in a way. I don't know if that's the exact way to explain it, but he would just like I remember when before we built this new big building we're in now at our church. We're building another big one, just full disclosure. But when we were building the one we're in now, we were talking about, somebody had mentioned, we were all talking one time at church between services or something, a bunch of us in a room, and the conversation come up about, well, there's so many people at our church. Now we're having to build this big new building, and this fella from the back corner of the room somewhere says something to the effect, well, I know why there's so many people, and of course nervous time, and I forget exactly how he phrased it, but I'll paraphrase it. It's because people spend so much time in them hot tubs. It's one of those things where everything goes silent and you move on. Well, so anyway, at sometime down the road, I'm teaching an adult class, 50-year-old people thereabouts, give or take 10 years, and he, for some reason, I think he kind of liked me, I kind of liked him, and we're both odd, I guess is why. But anyway, he made his way into my class taught, and once in a while, I will venture off into politics just a little. I know you're not supposed to do that much in church, and I try not to, but once in a while, conversation just leads you to make some comment. And I made some comment that was a little political, and there was just a short, brief conversation that took place after that amongst several people, and this gentleman was sitting back in the back corner of the room, not saying much, and I won't use the president's name that he brought up. It might have been somewhere between 2008 and 2016, somewhere in there. That's just a guess, but anyway, kind of out of nowhere, this fella from the back room says, "I'll tell you right now, that so and so's full of BS," but he didn't say BS. He said the word. Now, there was I think one or two people in the room that day. There's 25, 30 people in there. I don't know, 20 something. Two people heard it different. Everybody else heard it that way, and to this day, it's still one of the most astounding moments I've ever spent in a Sunday school class, and it's one of the rare times I had nothing to say. It stopped me dead in my tracks. Now, could have been a miscommunication, but most of us think it wasn't. But anyway, it happened, and so there. That's it.
Fun times.
Yep. So it led us to an incredibly awkward moment here on Mike the Baptist on the Three Preachers series. But
let's make it weird.
But y'all are probably no stranger to that kind of stuff happening anyway.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure. You know what? I'd love to be like in a corner of you guys' office once in a while when certain people go in there to talk to you. I would just kind of like to be.
You need therapy then.
No sense us all being crazy.
I just think it'd be kind of interesting. But we're not going to do that. So what we are going to do is we're going to take a little break, and we're going to come back and talk about some stuff we found in the Bible and do our best to be serious for a little bit.
That's asking a lot.
Wish us luck. Yes, we'll be back.
The sandwich is practically an American institution. It is a basic essential for lunch boxes, parties, and picnics. As far as these boys are concerned, well, hamburgers and hot dogs are their idea of a really good meal. But there are sandwiches and sandwiches. When Sally Gasco and her mother bring guests home for a late snack after a movie, they have something special in the way of a sandwich in mind. Sally calls it tuna rarebit. Let's watch how she makes it. The basis will be rye bread, Mother's idea. She found that the spicy caraway flavor made a good contrast to the bland fish and cheese. Sally puts a cube, about a square inch, of butter into the top of a double boiler. A little butter finds its way into a great many dishes in this kitchen, not only for flavor, but as a blending agent. Part of the trick to entertaining unexpected guests is keeping on hand certain generally useful foods. One of these is cheese of an easy melting type, which Sally is going to use as a base for the rarebit. Although the tuna rarebit is fairly substantial food in itself, it is a good idea to add something for variation in color and texture. Mother is making a salad dish: celery, radishes, olives, and pickles. Sally adds potato chips to the menu. They used to be exclusively picnic fare, but they've joined the host of useful accessory foods which make entertaining so much easier and more fun for teenagers. The bread was toasted quickly in the broiler, and the rarebit is nearly ready to serve. Let's see. What will be the beverage? Mother thinks she'll give the guests a choice of Coke or milk. When you can offer guests a choice easily, it's a gracious gesture. Now it's time to serve. 2 slices of toast are neatly arranged on each plate, and the filling, or perhaps we should say covering, goes on top. Sally knows you should serve cream dishes with extra caution. An effective carelessness here is no asset. Mother is a great believer in the aesthetic value of parsley, and of course it's good to eat, too. Now a touch of Tabasco for color and a taste surprise, and there's tuna rarebit a la Sally Gasco. As we said, there are sandwiches and sandwiches. A wise young homemaker using good techniques and equipment and a little imagination can turn a sandwich into festive fare.
Welcome back. We're glad you waited. It's a strange day here at Red Oak Sound Studios. I don't know how else to say it. It's just a strange day. We've had a lot of technical difficulties. I was telling these guys, I don't know if they believe it or not. You know how some people tell you things and it's hard to believe and you never believe them, but things that happen to you when you're by yourself and then you try to explain it and it always sounds like, mm-hmm. Well, we get all these podcast cameras and audio and everything's set up and everything's working like a charm, for couple hours before everybody starts showing up. And even as you guys are about to come in the door, for the last few minutes after I program the coffee to kick on at a certain time, I come in here, I push every camera button to see if the scenes change, and I do all that. I check my audio, everything's fine. And the minute one of you guys walk in the door, a camera goes out. It's been one of those days here, but we're back on track for now, and we're going to do our best to continue on and finish before next week's program. So, going to turn it over to the preachers and let them talk about some stuff we found in the Bible.
So, in the study that we've been doing at our church lately, we're going through 1 Timothy, and one of the things that he talks about in that letter is about being contentment in our lives. And, that's one of the things that in our society today that we really struggle with contentment. We are, it seems like, almost obsessed with having the latest and the greatest, the shiniest, things like that. But Paul tells us that, we need to be content, but he also talks about being anxious and anxiety, and the things are kind of connected, I believe. We don't want to be content, and when we're not content, we become anxious because we're wanting something or needing something or whatever, But got any thoughts about that one? How you see that in your lives with contentment and anxiety?
I work with students, and the thing that has really stuck with me in the most recent years, and this is even pre-COVID, so this is not just a COVID peculiarity. This is something that is the general baseline feeling and emotion for students nowadays, is that their baseline level of anxiety today for students is something that would have institutionalized them back in the 1930s and 40s. Like, people went to places to kind of cool off and catch their breath in the 30s and 40s, and that same baseline anxiety that would cause them to be in a place where they needed to recuperate and recover is what our students experience on a daily basis.
You got examples? I mean, examples of the things you're talking about?
Well, I think I have an idea behind the reason. Nowadays, they actually have in other countries a right to be forgotten laws, because everything that you do nowadays is recorded. Kids pull out their phones and they'll start recording. They think something's going to happen, they're going to start recording. They want to talk to their friends, they start recording, they post. Almost every aspect of their life is online. And so if you mess up and it gets recorded, there's no living it down. And so actually in other countries, they have decided that there are a right to be forgotten. If you have paid your time, your mistake will not show up in search results in that nation. And so I think the reason that some of our students experience anxiety is because they have this fear that their mistakes are going to be lived over and over and over, and not just by the people that were there to witness them, but by everybody.
I wonder if also this idea of measuring up, we all went to high schools. I don't know, I had 150 people in my graduating class, and it's really easy to do that comparison thing. But now with social media, there's so many things out there, and we know as adults, we know it's false. We see the picture with everybody in their white shirts and their khaki pants in front of the sand dune going, hey, we had the greatest vacation ever, and I know that 2 weeks earlier they were in my office contemplating divorce. And so there's a lot of falsehoods, and I'm wondering if that's some of their anxiety too, is they don't feel like they measure up. And I remember reading through where the disciples come to Jesus and they're talking about, who gets to sit at the left hand and the right hand. And just this idea that even with those 12 guys, there was a pecking order. And I remember reading a commentary that talked about all of us, mostly, we know we're not the best, but our greatest fear is we don't want to be the least. If we can be somewhere in the middle, we're okay. And, that's a real play on our psyche, is that the older you get, the more you experience life, you realize, I'm just kind of average at best in a lot of areas. And I wonder, if our kids are really feeling that pressure that they have to be the next LeBron James, or because we put all that in their head, right? If you just practice hard enough, if you just go to enough coaching or whatever, you can be whatever you want to be. And I think that's misleading a lot of our people in our culture.
Yeah, and what you just said is really true. And I think a good example of that from a movie. I don't know if you guys remember watching the most recent Jumanji, not the sequel, but the Jumanji with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and everything. Well, there was an opening scene in there where this girl has obviously gotten up, made coffee, has staged the room, has put her makeup on, and done all this stuff, made sure the lighting is good and adequate. And then she leans over and she takes a picture, just kind of does this number and takes a picture, makes it look like it was spontaneous. And then looks at the picture, doesn't like it, deletes it, and then does it again. And then posts it as if, man, we just woke up and having coffee. What a wonderful morning. And so what we see on social media is really a lie. Mm-hmm. It's a carefully crafted lie. And it's not necessarily a lie of evil intent, but you're posting a snapshot in time and presenting it as this is your reality all the time. But you're presenting a snapshot as reality. And that's just not the case. And so I have to tell my students, don't buy the lie. When you see that on social media, that's not reality. Don't buy the lie. That's not the standard that you have to live up to. You are not less than if that's what you see and that's what other people present as their reality. And if you don't get to experience that, it doesn't mean that you're less than. Don't buy the lie. It's not truth. That is not their reality all the time. And you guys love to go to Disney. And so it's become a thing. Usually you'll see family vacations where everybody's happy and smiling, and you forget that 5 minutes before or after, the kid is eating a churro and had been screaming because he wanted a churro, and then after the picture, he's vomiting that churro up all over everybody's shoes, right? Well, you get the one snapshot and think that's the way the entire day went. Well, with Disney, it's become a thing where my first Disney freak out. So families will take kids to Disney, and they'll actually... It's a whole line of things you can look for on social media where people will take pictures of their kids freaking out and crying and post it up there for everybody to see. But for the most part, what we see on social media causes a huge amount of anxiety because we think that that's reality, but it's not. And so I have to tell my students, don't buy the lie.
Texting too?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because texting, I see among adults where, we started out talking on the front porch about miscommunicating. Mm-hmm. So texting, you can take things really wrong. Mm-hmm. So you're even got to be careful about how you're.
Yep.
And you definitely got to check your auto spell.
Yeah.
Autofill, whatever that is.
Yeah, we've heard some of that in the green room.
That's a story for the green room.
Yeah, I've done some of that, and
editing. Even in our low budget, highbrow program that we're providing for our three favorite listeners here. There's a lot of editing that goes in.
Yes.
Because some of the things don't work like we thought, or something comes out that shouldn't have come out of our head. And there's a lot of, and you want to put your best foot forward. I'll speak to church, for example. So we have a high need and high want to do a great worship experience or do something at Upward or we want to do it well, and we want it to be successful, and we want to be perceived in a certain way. But I remind my staff all the time, at the end of the day, Sunday morning, our goal is to get the gospel out. If we show up and the electricity's not working and the soundboard fritzes or whatever, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? We're going to get the gospel out, and we're going to do the best we can. And so contentment, I think, is not just being happy about your circumstances, because we don't have to be happy about our circumstances, but it's just that reality to go, let's think about the big things and make the big things, and not worry so much about all the little details. And the sooner I think you do that, the more content you are in life.
Well, that's the key. That's how we become content. When we focus on the big picture. And the big picture for us is letting people know about Jesus.
Right.
And if we are letting people know about Jesus and they're hearing that truth, you know what? I can lay my head down at night and hopefully be able to go to sleep. And not be anxious about all the other things, this building program that we're going through right now. And we're at that stage where it feels like a million different things, that are on us that we have to figure out all of a sudden. But we're getting the gospel out there. I mean, upwards every Saturday, we have, like about 1,000 people on campus. They're hearing a little bit of the scriptures while they're there, during a devotion time at halftime and stuff. All the kids programs are going on. The celebrate, all the things are going on around the church. We're fulfilling that primary purpose for us. We're worshiping God and we're sharing Him with others.
Upwards, for those of you who might be watching or listening that don't know, is a program that our church does, sports, flag football, and a lot of people show up and they come and they get a little devotion during the day, but it's mostly just about getting them there and involving them in something. But anyway, I just want to explain what that was for somebody that.
And Jason says this thing. See, I listened to you, but I don't remember. Something about what we do today. Our goal for today is what? Rephrase.
Do today the thing that God has laid before you today. That's all that's required.
Oh, hang on.
Yeah.
That's so.
Well, no, I mean, think about it.
I know it's right, but it just sounded it had to be buzzed.
It does. Okay.
Now go ahead and talk about it.
We stress ourselves out. Like, am I following God's will? Am I doing what God wants me to do? Like, we often think too far in the future. I mean, it's great to think in the future, but literally all that's required today to be obedient to God today is God has given you certain things to do. Do those. Focus on today. Live today the way that God wants you to, and then I'll remove the stress and anxiety of what will come in the future. Like, literally just do today what God has laid before you today.
Oh, man, there's a lot of people I call them people that go by the book, that have to have a schedule and, they've got a plan way down the road, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I've seen a lot of people really stress out because of that right there. I may be the extreme opposite of that. But
you don't even have a book.
I don't have a book.
The extreme opposite.
I don't. Yeah, I don't have a book, and I mean no disrespect to those who do. But I've seen a lot of stress come from folks. Now I have a different kind of stress because I think here again, Susan, HD's wife, and I were talking about this recently, that we both share something in common, is that sometimes we will wait to finish something until it's just right at the last moment, and then we do a little stress dance of our own. But luckily, she and I talked about, we both learned how to do that, and so we don't stress out over that anymore. But I think the reason, point I'm getting to is that whether you stress about something or not usually doesn't change the outcome of it. It just costs you minutes off your life, I believe. It just makes your heart a little weaker, and it makes your head more tired. And so is it just me, or all throughout the Bible are we not told, don't worry about it, let me worry about it, don't worry about it, and do what, like you said, you do what you're given to do right now. And that's another churchy phrase that I think causes people some stress is what is it God told me to do? Because if you're like me, I've never audibly heard His voice. So that phrase, God told me to do something. We talked about an episode recently with some folks that we know that came to some of us and said, God told me to do something. So,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying.
Can I just be transparent to you and just say, I know a lot of people look at pastors and we use that word calling, you have a calling on your life. And how did you know that, and when did you know that? But I can tell you, one of the most frustrating times of my life is I knew there were some changes taking place. I knew there were some desires and things that were going on, wrestling in my heart. But I remember laying in bed at night worried about it and trying to figure out, do I do A, B, C, D? How do I get all this done? And we live in a great culture that you can put your mind to doing something and pretty much be successful at it. And then the question becomes, what am I supposed to be doing? What is God's plan for me? How do I be obedient? And I just remember just stressing out about it. And it was kind of when I just let go of that and said, you know what, God, I don't really know what you're doing. Don't know why you would be doing it, but I'm just open to you doing it. Now you're going to have to do it. And as soon as I kind of let go of that, it seemed like it just started working itself out. Or maybe I was just less stressed. So contentment is about just that day today, doing what you're supposed to do, being in that relationship first with God, then your relationship with your family, and just doing what you're supposed to do.
Perhaps a part of it is accepting where you are at any given moment, too.
Absolutely.
And kind of resting in the
Absolutely.
fact that the Bible teaches you, if you're paying any attention at all, that you're going to be taken care of. Now, in my mind gets a little out there complicated at times and tries to overthink things, but that's pretty simple. If the Bible is teaching me that God's going to take care of me once I buy into this, and that the rest of it will take care of itself, there's a lot of comfort in that and contentment in that. Mm-hmm. But I have to accept the fact that where I am right now is this strange mixture of what I've done myself, what God is doing around me, what other people are doing in my little sphere. I've just got to accept that where I am right now is okay. And so I can find a little contentment in that. I don't think that means you have to be happy. If you're broke, I don't know if you guys have ever been broke.
Yeah, you're not happy about it.
Yeah, you're not going to be happy about that. I don't think you're supposed to be happy about it, but there is a way you can be content, because when you realize you don't have to have a lot to be happy, then there's a contentment comes from that. So I think you have to accept where you are.
So there's this.
Is that thing still going? The timer stopped a while ago.
Yes, but it's still going.
How much longer do we have on it?
It actually shows a lot of time that I didn't think we had, but it's just still going.
All right. Good deal.
We're good right now. I'll pick up wherever we were.
So what we're doing here is we're doing a really good job of describing these things that we're supposed to run from.
Thank you.
We're doing a really good job of describing things to run from, but that's only half of the equation. The other half of the equation is you have to be running to something. And there's this passage of scripture. It's where this pastor who is further down the road in ministry is talking to a pastor that is not as far along down the road in ministry. And he's giving him some encouragement. And basically what he's saying there is, hey man, run from those things, but be intentional about running to these things. And so I want to read that passage real quick. It's in 1 Timothy chapter 6. And it says in verse 11, "But as for you, O man of God, flee these things. Pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, steadfastness, gentleness. Fight the good fight of the faith. Take hold of the eternal life to which you were called and about which you made the good confession in the presence of many witnesses." So it says flee on the one hand, run from those things. Don't buy the lie, run from the lie, but then run to the truth. Sell everything that you have and buy truth. And so what is truth? How can you find contentment? What is contentment? Contentment is an internal thing. It is not an external thing. So you have to plant inside of you this contentment, this joy. It's not circumstantial. I'm driving today my 1993 Ford Ranger. It's got
Ranger danger.
Ranger danger, that's right. It has got 246,000 miles on it.
Sweet.
The odometer stops at 999,000 or 99,000 miles.
And you're going to peg it out on that?
And it's flipped twice.
Oh.
So, it's gone so far that it stopped counting twice. And the reason I'm driving my 1993 Ford Ranger today is because within the last couple of weeks, my power steering pump went out on my truck, and the rack and pinion went out in my 2009 truck, which has 210,000 miles on it. And so, I could be angry and frustrated and upset, and I was last week. I have gotten over it a little bit. I have learned what it means to be content. I'm driving my 1993 Ford Ranger, and man, that thing is still fun to drive.
Yeah.
And you know what? It gets me from point A to point B. And you know what? It took longer to find the power steering pump for my truck because it's on a national back order and emergency status, so that only emergency vehicles like police officers and ambulances and different things like that can actually get this part. And so I spent 2 days of my vacation on the phone trying to find this part for my vehicle so that I could actually drive a vehicle again. And you know what? All that anxiety, all that stress, all that frustration, it really faded away when one morning I'm like, I read the Bible cover to cover every year. It's just what I do. It only takes 15 minutes a day roughly. And I'm behind like 3 weeks, 4 weeks at this point. And one morning I was playing catch up and I read about 4 days worth of scripture. And you know what? At the end of that 4 days of reading time, which was about 12, 13 chapters of is Ezekiel of all places. At the end of that 12 to 13 chapters of Ezekiel, I was like, I'm feeling pretty good right now. I had spent time with God. So all the stress and anxiety of the external things that had been trying to take root in my heart, those got rooted out. I ran from them and implanted in my heart my quiet time with my God. And my goodness, I felt better. So contentment is running from something, but it is running to Jesus.
That's right. And that's what we have to. That's what we keep teaching and trying to encourage people to do is, get into God's Word. And because you want truth, you want peace, you find it in God's Word. So
it's in there.
It is in there. Yeah, it's all over the place.
You know what? There's more in there. I find there's more in there. In stressful times, there are people that'll just close their eyes, open their Bible, and point. Looking for an answer.
That doesn't work.
So much better ways to do something.
That's how I get all my messages.
Is that wrong?
We knew that.
Not done that.
That's why they're never connected.
Right.
That's why they're all. Yeah. We're trying our best to. But when you do what Jason said and you take the time to soak up what's before and after whatever your finger may land on when you just point, you get more of a complete picture, and it gives your I guess it gives your mind time to relax enough for him to soak into you a little bigger message, which is what you're saying. It's like the front porch visit on Mike the Baptist. If you'll slow down and visit with people, you learn a lot about people, and good things always come from that. When you slow down and talk, I kind of believe, in my own simplistic way, this is what God wants people to do, is slow down and think about him long enough for him to get a message across in your thick skull, which all of our skulls are pretty thick. In this whole social media, texting, all that stuff you were talking about earlier, causing anxiety, that gets in the way of what I'm talking about. Really bad. We talked about it here on a program or two ago about laying the cell phones down for a little while. Mm-hmm. Kuntz talked about, what did you say you did? You got to a point where you just left it somewhere. Was that you or somebody else?
Try and do your quiet time. That's what it was.
Oh yeah. Sometimes you just gotta remove it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you
take
can't
my watch off because it's attached to my phone. When I'm having my quiet time,
yes,
I have to take my watch off.
Oh, or your phone's going to ring.
Okay. Here's an interesting factoid.
We love those.
Yeah. You're welcome. So
get medicine for that.
They have done studies.
More of a procedure. I think.
Okay.
You mentioned this. They have done studies that show that people's attachment to this
that phone
is so high. Their phone is so high that if they lose it, their brain triggers in the same place as their brain triggers when they lose a family member.
I believe this.
And that might mean that you're maybe a little too attached to this, and you might need to run from this and run to something else.
So this is one of the run from things you're talking about.
Yeah, run from your attachment to this and run to your attachment to God.
Listen, I am not afraid to make a prediction that we're not very many years away from this being an actual medical thing.
Implanted.
That's a very common thing in our society.
There was an SNL skit about that, actually.
A what?
An SNL skit, Saturday Night Live.
I can't do anything without somebody copying it. No, but it's such a problem because so many people are looking at those all the time. I recently saw a picture of somebody's family gathering. They posted on Facebook, and everybody in there was on a cell phone. It was just hilarious. So anyway,
It's thinking
it was hilarious, but it's not.
it's not because it's real.
Yes, it is. It is real, and that was my point a little bit ago. I can safely predict. I think that this will be a national health thing, worldwide health thing.
Yeah. Jason, when you were talking about running from something to something, I was sitting there going, that sounds familiar. All you are weak and heavy laden, come unto me and I will give you rest. Take up my yoke, And that's, Jesus is talking to just regular everyday folk. He's just talking to regular everyday folk. And, I have found that even God cares about little things in my life, but he cares about all things in my life. When it comes tax time and you're stressed out about, golly, why do I have to pay the government so much money and how am I going to do this? And then you're like, should I do this? Because I don't like the way the government spends my money. It's like if you'll just kind of give that to him and go, you know what? Thank you, God, that I live in a country where I can ride down the road. I can go to church and not have to worry about the Gestapo coming in and shutting me down and that kind of stuff. So you kind of get to that contentment level where you realize it is about your relationship with him and letting him take care of it. All of us are dads. And it's fun to watch your kids when they get old enough to process in their mind struggles in their own life. And when it's over their head and you can kind of step in and be the hero, and fix it for them, it's kind of cool to be able to do that. And you think about our Heavenly Father he's sitting there just waiting for us to go, all I want you to do is just look to me and go, I need help with this. And whatever that is, I'm struggling in my job. I'm struggling with my health. I'm struggling with time management. I'm struggling with how do I get along with my family. And God's like, just give it to me and I'm going to give you some rest. But you just keep trying to figure it out on your own and you just keep getting in a worse scenario. And that's why I think a lot of times we're not content because we're too busy trying to figure things out instead of just relaxing and being with him.
What do you think some of the things are in your experience that people are most discontent about?
I would say, a lot of folks are discontent with, just where they're at in life.
Mm-hmm.
You mean like financial situation, job, family?
Yeah, really all of that. Cause, and there are times I find myself struggling with that. I think back to where Dad was
You wish
at.
you had better coworkers? What?
Well, that's part of it. But,
That's what he tells me sometimes to the side.
I think about my dad. When my dad was in his late 40s, I would look at my dad because, I was 20 years old. And I'm like, man, Dad has got it all figured out. He's got it all together. He's on top of everything. And I look at myself, I'm like, I am on top of very little. I don't have it all figured out. And I'm like, man, I'm like, So to me, that's, a lot of those things that you just mentioned they kind of creep in on me. I'm like, you're not doing too good, boy. You need to get on top of these things.
Yeah. Status. I think status is a big thing. When you start realizing, oh my gosh, I've been out of school over 30 years. And you think in your mind, I thought I'd be further along than this. I thought I was smarter than this. I thought, I'd figured it out. Or, let's be honest, as pastors, you see other men who have bigger churches and bigger ministries or more success, and you get bummed out about that. I remember, of course, I'm getting to that age now where a lot of my friends from high school are retiring. And I'm sitting there going, holy smokes, I am nowhere near able to do that.
I'll never be able to retire.
I'll never be able to do that.
I'm tired again. Is that retired?
Yeah, something like that.
I retired first years ago.
You just never start working, right?
I'm having to go back to work now. I'm going.
But yeah, stuff like that, and you start again. That's that comparison thing, and I have a cousin. He's 11 months older than me, and he went to work right out of high school for a utilities company. He's now retired, and now he is subcontracting back when he wants to make extra money. And I'm like, you stink.
Yeah.
You stink. Yeah. Right. So yeah, I think we struggle with that stuff.
What does this mean to the people who aren't churched, so to speak, who might be hearing you guys say that you need to run from this anxiety and run from this stress and run too? So we understand in our church circles what that means, what it means to rest in Him, or put our cares on him, all those churchy phrases. We understand that. But let's say somebody is listening to this conversation right now, and they understand the stress, they understand the anxiety, and they understand even the concept of running from that to get away from it, but don't quite understand what you guys are talking about run to.
All right, let's try something here real quick.
Okay.
All right. Do I have everybody's attention?
Hang on a second. Sure.
Do not think of a purple elephant. Like, don't think of a purple elephant.
Well, thanks.
Don't think of a purple elephant. Don't think of a purple elephant. Don't do it. Don't think of a purple elephant. What is the first thing you guys think of?
Big owl, a gray elephant.
A gray elephant? Okay, but you're halfway there.
It was a purple elephant.
It's a purple elephant. What'd you think of? When somebody tells you not to do something,
No,
what
let
do you
me
do?
answer. Don't ask him.
The rebel.
I was thinking you had too much coffee.
I was
You're not wrong.
I was trying to think of the big pink elephant up at Loco Charlie's with the margarita glass.
Yeah, I want that. I
Yeah.
want the big Indian standing across the street
Okay.
too. Anyway, that's a.
So
I thought,
But
about
I thought purple elephant.
Yeah.
Exactly. Point taken.
when you are battling and struggling with anxiety, you don't defeat that by trying really hard not to be anxious. You don't defeat that by trying really hard to just, well, I'm not going to think about that. I'm not going to think about it. I'm not, because it's going to continuously seep in there. You don't beat the anxiety by trying not to focus on that. You beat the anxiety by focusing on something else. And what is that something else that you need to focus on?
Well, I know where you're going, but I'm just comparing this to my strange life at time. I live in my house, which is nowhere close to the studio. Just
At all.
Most people do live in their house.
Well, but anyway, behind my
Thanks,
house,
Captain Obvious.
I live on this piece of property where there's this creek that runs all the way around a bend down behind my house. And there are times over the years, I've lived in that house 30 years, I guess, but almost 30, but at very stressful times, I have walked off to that creek to go fishing in the middle of some stressful stuff. Mm-hmm. Anyway, long story short, I just come up out of there feeling like a different human being because I've got my mind off of that, I guess, in a way. Or did I just get my physical body away from it? And
You know, it's sort of like hitting the reset button. If your computer is getting overloaded and it's having trouble formatting, it's needing its hard drive defragged.
which we do a lot here.
Anytime you have a problem, anytime you're troubleshooting computers, the first thing you do is restart. And how do you restart? Mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. Sometimes you look at the prophet Elijah. He was being threatened by a gangster. I mean, essentially, it was a gangster in power, and it was a real threat. And he ran off, and he ran away from his problems. That didn't fix it, but part of the solution was God told him to take a nap and eat some food and rest. And not just once, but multiple times. He's like, take a nap, rest, eat some food. His problems weren't gone, but his ability to handle them was better. So sometimes we need to take care of ourselves physically. Taking a nap. There's a reason that God said there's a day of rest. Take a nap. You don't have to burn up here all the time. Take care of yourself physically. Take care of yourself emotionally. If there are people that are just causing you anxiety and stress, maybe you need to have a timeout to catch your breath from those situations. Do what you can to minimize the impact that those individuals will have on you. Take care of yourself emotionally. Take care of yourself spiritually. I mean, my goodness, take care of yourself physically. You're not just, or spiritually, you're not just a physical body. You're body, soul, mind, spirit. Take care of that and spend some time with Jesus. Like, golly, it looks different for different people. There's lots of different, if you want to call them spiritual disciplines, the things that you do to be good in your relationship with God. There's lots of different ways you can do that, but you have got to do it. You have got to prioritize it. It looks different for different people.
You're not going to handle any problem very well if you're dead.
Nope.
I mean, if you physically
Problems are
stress
gone.
out so much, yeah, the problems will be gone for you. You might leave some behind, but
You know, Jackson, you bring up a great question, though, or thought. what about the listeners who don't go to church and don't have a relationship with God, and how do they deal with that? I think the Bible teaches us also that, life under this sun, we go outside, there's a life that we live here, and there's a lot of good things to it. Again, you don't have to be a Christian to enjoy your marriage or to enjoy your children or to have a good hamburger. You can enjoy life here, but you come to that place to realize that all the things that you're living for, every time you cut your grass, it's going to grow back. Mm-hmm. Every time you put down mulch, it's going to wash away. It's going to go away. You're going to have to put it down. Paint a room, you're going to have to paint it again. Golly, you go to the doctor, you got to go again. I'm getting sick again. And so this life is futile. I mean, it just constantly seems like it's decaying, falling in on you. And so what's the answer to life? Well, the answer to life is not just to do more stuff or to have more hobbies and all that, or have more money. People think if I had more money, then then I'd give to charities and I'd be happy and everybody'd be great. No, if you had more money, you'd have more people coming after you, and you'd have more stress that you're going to lose your money. And by the way, you're going to get old and die anyway, and you can't take it with you. So what's the purpose of life? The purpose of life is for us to have a relationship with God. And if you don't have a relationship with God, you can enjoy some contentment, but you won't have supreme contentment. You can have some happiness, but you won't have supreme happiness. Paul is writing from a standpoint that he has a relationship with God, and he's reminding young Timothy, keep the right things in the right perspective, because with God, you're going to be good. I mean, in the end, that's what we talk about. In the end, we win. Even if the world, it looks like we fail. I was at a conference one time, and this guy got up and he said, I want y'all to know, y'all been praying for my sister, and she died. And everybody's kind of like, oh. And he said, but also want you to know, he said, cancer didn't win. There's kind of this hush. He said, cancer destroyed her body, but cancer didn't win, because my sister's in heaven with Jesus right now. And so, even the things that look like defeat for us, when we have a relationship with Christ, there's that contentment. So again, what would my solution be to anybody that you see today? Man, you need to have your life right with Christ.
Would it be safe to say that somebody who is understanding what we're saying about running from anxiety, stress, the thing to run to, it might be the perfect time to run to God if you haven't before.
Yes, absolutely.
And give this a try. I always say, what do you have to lose here in trying this? Mm-hmm. Yep. You don't have anything to lose. You have a lot to gain. And those of us who have been there can all testify to the fact that it's all gain. And I might add, to this conversation, that running to that is the only real peace you're ever going to get from your stress, because if you run from something but you run to your own solution again, over and over again, I have found my solutions just cause more stress usually. Running to Him is the only true source of peace and stress relief I have ever found.
Yeah.
This is not to say that
the answer is not in you.
I'll turn around and go back.
The answer is not in you. If the answer was in you, then we wouldn't see all these celebrities that are miserable. The answer is not in this world, because this world just disappoints you over and over again. You've got your sights set too low, and that's why you're not content. And even Christians struggle with contentment because we got our sights set too low. Well, I don't have enough money, and God's going, if I gave you more money, you'd be miserable. I've got you right where I want you.
Yeah, I would have been dead a long time ago if you'd have done all that for me.
Exactly.
So,
contentment's a good thing.
Yes, I think we can safely say here, Jason, contentment is a good thing.
It is a good thing. And the cool thing about it, joy is different than happiness. Happiness is based on what happens to you. It's external. Joy is internal. Joy and contentment are inextricably linked. There's no way around it. If you find your joy in Jesus, then you will Not every moment of every day, but you will be, generally speaking, a more content person.
And you'll be happier.
And people will be happier to be around you.
Well, there's that. Yeah. We talked about contentment a lot here lately. A matter of fact, a friend of mine told me I need to rename the title of some of these videos on YouTube because they were all called Mike the Baptist with the three preachers, Mike the Baptist with Brent Gambrell, or Mike the Baptist with whoever. So I
Mike
thought,
the Baptist with the three long-winded preachers?
with the three long-winded preachers. But anyway, we were talking about YouTube traffic, and I said, well, the people that like this go watch it, and it's not a high number yet, but I assume it will grow, and it has been a little bit here and there. But anyway, he suggested, well, if you'll change your title, he said, videos I do, I put a brand or something I'm talking about, and it hits the search results. So I thought, oh, okay, I'll give that a try. So I was sitting in the Home Depot parking lot the other day, trying to run from a little stress. And while I was sitting there, I thought, hey, I'm going to rename one of those videos. So we talked about contentment a week or two ago, and I went in there and changed the title of it to Lobster is Good, but So Are Beans. Well, the views kind of just skyrocketed on that, and I was thinking, well, I don't understand. But I also put the phrase 1 Timothy in there, because I think he had suggested, well, if you put a scripture reference in there or something, that might get some hits. So I put them both in there. But then one morning this week, I was fiddling through some stuff, and I came across some sort of analytic, which I still don't understand all this totally. I'm kind of stumbling my way through it. But in that particular video's analytic, I scrolled down. It called up that video on this analytic, but underneath it called up other videos that were being hit at the same time. And there were all these how to boil lobster videos, all these lobster recipes, and I'm thinking, so guys, if the word lobster starts showing up in all the videos, just think nothing of it, because evidently, but anyway, what was that all about? Oh, it was about contentment. Lobster's good, so are beans.
Once I thought a lobster, but then I found her.
That's pretty good right there.
Is that Ray Stevens? Is that
That's something. I don't know.
Are we at that point that
Yes, we've concluded this
reached
part
our
of the
synopsis?
message.
Oh, are you through, Jason? And weren't you
we're
leading
good.
us?
We're good.
We're good.
I'm good too. We'll be back with Annie or Outie. Always fun.
Do you listen to or watch Mike the Baptist? Do you wear clothes? If so, we've got some great news. T-shirts and hoodies are now available at MikeTheBaptist.com. Just visit MikeTheBaptist.com, click on the merchandise link, and you'll find high-quality tees, hoodies, and even onesies for the babies in a variety of colors, all with the Mike the Baptist logo and familiar sayings from the program. Mike the Baptist is a true labor of love. No one has to pay to listen or watch the program, but Mike and the crew have to eat. So a portion of each sale of a t-shirt or hoodie goes to Mike's local Kroger, Walmart, or electric utility. It's kind of simple like that. In order to keep the program free, we have to generate a bit of income to pay the bills. When you make a purchase, you're not only doing the world a favor by wearing clothes, you're helping keep the messages of Mike the Baptist on the air. Thanks for helping out, and thanks so much for being involved in spreading the good news. What a great planet.
Hey everybody, it's time to play America's almost favoriteest new game show, Any or Outie, where we challenge our guests to figure out if a phrase we give them is actually in the Bible or out of the Bible. Sharpen your wits, guest. You're about to be in the hot seat of Bible stuff, because you're the next contestant on Any or Outie. Here's Mike.
Today on Any or Outie, it's going to be much like it has been the previous times, but it's always fun, so we'll just carry on with the way we've always done it. And today, Kuntz and Jackson. That sounds like another law firm, Kuntz and Jackson. Today, we're going to be in charge of madness, and we're going to present the questions for the other three who aren't questioning and see how they do. It's always fun to see how they do. They being me, coming up right quick, too. So Actually, I'll be they right now, and you can go first.
All right. So, in keeping with some of the scripture we've been studying, it talked about a little bit about riches in 1 Timothy. This phrase, money is the answer for everything.
I got to get a tea.
No, we're good. Money is the answer for everything.
Except for when I'm thirsty.
Sorry, it just hit me. I ran in there and looked it up. Say it again.
Money is the answer for everything.
Are you asking us, is that in the...
Innie or outie, money is the answer for everything.
I mean, it sounds like it could be sarcasm.
Well, it is.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, the way he presented it was kind of
it's
sarcastic.
very sad if you actually think that's true. The Bible is very sarcastic at times.
It's really good. Lipton, Georgia Peach is really good.
It's good.
I'm sorry, a little distracted.
You're trying to get a
Endorsement?
and yeah,
Oh, yeah, I didn't think about that.
Lipton. If you're listening,
Money is the what?
Money is the answer for everything.
And what did you say while I was thinking about tea? You said, do you remember what you
Scripture is
said?
sarcastic.
the Bible is very sarcastic.
Oh, it is, yeah, it's sharp.
So it could be one of the prophets making fun of Israel's pursuit of money or our pursuit of money. I don't know. I can't remember that phrase being in there unless it was sarcasm somewhere that I cannot think of it.
So you're saying it wasn't Jesus saying that from a hill somewhere?
Money is the answer for everything. Yeah. I don't-
Could be a proverb.
Oh, yeah, how they say money's the answer to everything, but a nagging wife is like a leaky faucet or something.
Yeah.
How they do that? They say one thing and then they back it up with something else. That's not the right comparison. But money is the answer for everything. That's what you said.
Money is the answer for everything.
And look how determined he is when he says that.
Yeah.
It's like
I'm waiting for the
I'm
little thing
thinking.
to just
I'm thinking.
mouth
No.
it for me.
I'm thinking that's not in there.
I'm trying to think through. That sounds like it could be a proverb. And I may talk myself into saying it's in there in a sarcastic way.
we're going to watch you if you do that because it'll be entertaining to watch you do that.
I'm beside myself.
I'm thinking it's actually in there, but in a sarcastic way in either one of the prophets or in Proverbs. I'm gonna tentatively say in, but I think it's in there in a sarcastic way. I don't think that's what the Bible actually endorses.
H, I'm inclined to say it's not, but
I'm inclined to say it's not. So we're probably wrong.
we're usually wrong when we get together
Yeah.
like that.
I mean, we know there are things like money is the root of all evil,
Right.
the root of all kinds of evil.
Yes. But
So-
I've learned on Any or Outie that these guys are learning to
know.
sneak up on you
Yeah.
with things that
Michael's
are in
really
there.
good at sneaking up on us.
Well, Neil, if you haven't noticed, Neil is pretty good at that too because he'll come up with these things that are in there but sound like they shouldn't be, like smote thee behind or whatever. I still
Parts.
can't believe that's in there.
Yeah,
Part
money
smoke
is the
they part
answer
behind.
for everything.
I'm going to pull a coonch right here. I'm going to say, nope,
Yeah, I'm thinking no. It's
not in there.
I don't think it's in there.
but
So 2/3.
2/3.
we got 2 no's and a yes. So what do we now? Wait a minute.
If he's on the fence still.
So when the
I
answer
think I'm
comes
going to
out,
stick with in there, but in a sarcastic way, in Proverbs or one of the prophets.
there's
You don't know what to do.
well, there's a dilemma. I don't think I've come across this yet, where the panel.
It's okay for us to be wrong. Somebody's going to be
I'm
wrong.
probably
Well,
wrong.
but
in
no,
this
but
case.
see, here's what the problem
have
is.
division
We
in the
have
church
2
now,
answers. Yeah, it's church division. Whoop! Hey, there's a buzz topic right there. This is the dilemma is I don't think we've come up on this Any or Outie situation where the 3 did not at some point all give the same answer. So you have a winner as a team,
We
or
have a split decision.
So this could be the first individual winner if Jason's right and
I'm probably
HD and I are wrong.
I'm probably wrong, but it sounds like sarcasm to me.
But if we leave it split and HD and I are correct, then we can hold this over Jason's head for time memoriam.
Please do it.
Or whatever.
I'm good with that. I'm okay. I'm okay with
You're
being
not
wrong.
changing his mind. I can already
I'm okay
tell.
with
He's-
being wrong.
He's stuck on it.
No, I'm like, I'm really. If I had to guess, I'm like 51-49 or something. I'm just slightly leaning towards it being in there.
Slightly
that fits.
leaning.
I'm 50-50 on this side of the table, but
Yeah.
I'll go with you
I'm
on
asleep.
that. Yeah. Okay, I think HD and I are no, that ain't in there.
2 outs, 1 in.
And 1 in.
You know, there's a lot of good rock and roll songs out there that, you know, talk about all kinds of things in life.
Yes.
This isn't one of them. Ecclesiastes 10:19 says, and this is weird, a feast is prepared for laughter, wine makes life happy, and money is the answer for everything.
Oh no.
Look at
I just
him
had
rock
a
and roll over
conversation
here,
with
man.
somebody about that scripture recently and read that and knew that and sat right
And we
here.
were just talking about Ecclesiastes, life under the sun.
No.
Oh, well.
But
I got
hey,
so
look.
lucky on that one.
So HD and I have been here before.
That was not.
You know,
But so that's our first
we
individual.
really just do this to make Jason feel better about himself.
It's
Jason,
the small things, okay?
Jason has a lot of
Mission
knowledge
successful.
up in there. Okay, so congratulations, Jason,
Good job, Jason.
and
I
congratulations,
worked hard on
Coots,
that one,
for
too.
That was a good one.
that was a good one.
Any or outie is getting hard.
It
It's
is.
very hard because
It needs to be.
We started with all these phrases that we hear all the time.
Well,
People say
you start with
and
the
now
one-
we've ran out of those.
When you Google, you get 10.
Yeah,
and
that's
so
right.
we went through the 10 pretty quick, and then it's. But you know what? Now we're having to search for them.
I had to study.
Have to study.
Yeah. Anyway,
Okay, all right. Power shifts to me. Take your time. God's house. Is that in the Bible or not? Is that an innie or an outie?
that phrase, God's house.
Take your time, discuss it amongst yourselves. Let me see if I can do it like Kuntz. God's house.
That don't sound good.
That wasn't right. You say that.
God's house.
God's house.
God's house.
I'm very confident. Is that in the Bible or not? Innie or outie?
I know the Lord's house is in there.
My father's house.
My Father's house. House of the Lord is in there.
House of the Rising Sun is not in the
That
Bible.
is that's a song,
Yep, but it's not in the Bible.
an inappropriate
It
song.
might be.
Well, you know, I hadn't thought about that. I'd have to research that.
God's house.
Yep.
Yes, yes, it is.
Exact phrase. What happened in your head just then? Because it's like all of a sudden you.
Well, I just
yep,
heard-
He turned the pages and he got
something
page.
happened in there. Something
Oh, I
clicked.
see it there.
I think I remember a prophet condemning Israel and saying something to the effect of God's house, and then going on to explain
Yeah.
somebody saying
God's house will not be. Okay. Yeah.
He didn't say temple.
Oh,
That's just a question. I mean, I don't, you know, not to beleaguer the conversation, but
Depends
Did
on
you
which.
use a D on the end of that word?
no. I did not.
Depends on
No,
which
it's
translation. Is this the message?
Belabor
is this
is
the
a
message
word,
Bible?
and
That's what I'm
beleaguered is a word as well. So both of those are words.
Belabor is a word.
Belabor is a word, yes.
What about shrinkle?
Trinkle is not.
Shrink on still.
It's a
But
work
we
in
need to make
progress.
it one.
Hey, let me tell you, there are two people in recent weeks that have come by me. One of them just walked by me yesterday, and they didn't say anything. As they were walking by, they just looked at me and pointed and said, "Shrinkle."
HT, if you put that in the sermon, I mean, it might.
Well, it'll help our cause
Okay. Well,
because being used now. I wonder if it works kind of like song royalties, because if a song of mine gets played in a crowd, I get more royalty than like if it gets played privately on your phone. So if you use that in a sermon in front of an audience twice, and one of them goes out on the internet,
big time there.
I'm not getting royalties out of it yet, but I would like to get the word in the dictionary.
God's house.
Yep. Yeah, I forgot
Are you
what we're talking
looking
about.
at the answer for us here? Mike, are you going to show us the answer?
Oh,
on the
is
screen?
that on the screen?
Yeah, that is on the
screen.
screen. I appreciate
Well,
you doing that.
no.
God, I see.
I don't know how to get that off the screen. Just look away from it.
There's nothing going on.
Look away, I'm hideous.
The reason I'm doing that is because the particular scriptures I'm basing some of this on are on my phone, and my phone's over there across the room being used as a camera, so I can't access it.
God's house.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to wait because I wasn't aware that y'all could see that on that big screen over there. So.
Why did y'all give that up?
With it being the specific phrase God's house, that the house is what I'm struggling with. I've heard it referred to, and I remember the Lord's house, our Father's house, my Father's temple. I mean, I've heard those different phrases, and I feel like there's one in there where it says God's house, but I could be wrong. I feel like it is, but I very much could
I'm
be
drawing
wrong.
a blank on this.
I'm so happy with this one because I initially thought, well, these three preachers, they'll be all over this just
I'm drawing
immediately.
a blank on that phrase.
It's tricky, isn't it? That's why I liked it when I heard it.
Yeah, so we got so many other terms.
Actually, a fellow, while HD was preaching recently, a fellow sitting beside me leaned over and elbowed me and says, God's house, that'd be a good in or outie. While you were preaching.
At least they were in attendance.
It's a big house with lots and lots of room.
Yes,
Yeah.
no, that's a song.
That's a good song.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to try to sing that years ago, unsuccessfully.
I'm going to say out.
Out.
It sounds too good to be true.
I guess I'm going to be in.
It sounds too good to be true, though, doesn't it?
It does.
That's a good way to say that. It does sound,
It sounds.
which is the point of in or outie.
yeah.
Some things
It sounds
sound
too
like-
good. Like, oh, surely God's house is in there.
I think it's in.
But then
I
you get to
do.
thinking about, churchy people. They're saying God's house. This is God's house. So that's why it's confusing, I think.
Can I abstain?
Oh, wait a minute. Is that a church word?
No,
Abstain?
No.
you can do that on.
No, that's a priest do that or something. Anyway,
And people that don't drink alcohol.
yes. Okay, yes. A better.
Or they
a better,
refuse to answer.
say them.
You refuse to answer a question in court.
Yeah.
Abstain.
So you're
Are we
kind of
in
wanting
court?
to abstain. I don't think we've ever had that
We're in
either.
the court of public opinion.
Boy, we're going to have to write a rule book now. After
Yeah,
this
we're gonna have to
episode,
come up
aren't
with
we?
some. It started out several weeks ago.
I'm saying it's out.
We ran into a
I'm
translation.
just going.
We are losing our unity.
I'm just
here.
going with it's out.
So there's two
Guys
outs
are making me
and
question. I'm gonna stick with it being in. I'll probably be wrong this one. Luck will run out. I'm gonna say in, and they're saying out.
what a day this has been for any or outie. Jason Riccardi has swept.
Woo!
He has swept. What's the phrase? Swept the board.
Yeah, sounds good.
What does that mean?
I don't know, but we'll go with it.
I don't know.
Oh, so does anybody have a Bible app handy?
Yeah.
Well, actually, I may have it here now. I was just going to look it up to give a little proof that there was a couple of scriptures that popped up really quick. God's house, Bible verse. Let's see. All right.
Psalm 27:4.
Okay, so that's one of them. But
This
I
says
think
house of the Lord.
no. There's a God's house. It's the hardcore Christian Standard Bible, the Holman Christian Standard.
Hardcore
HCC.
Southern Baptist.
Yeah,
I need to
hardcore
see
Southern
proof. You need to
Baptist.
show it to me.
Yep. Well, look up hardcore. Well, Holman Christian
Oh, don't do that.
Standard Bible.
That particular verse.
Just look for God's house. One of them, I think, was one of the Old Testament. You were talking about. Thought it was a prophet or somebody, tongue in cheek or something, or scolding somebody.
Well, in Genesis 28:22.
Genesis, yes.
God's house. Psalm 55:14. God's house.
Yep.
Well, let's get our resumes
Hebrews
ready.
3:2. God's house.
Yes.
All right,
Hebrews
you've made the
3:5.
point.
God's
We're a failure.
Wow, no, I'm a failure. Like,
No, you won.
Golly.
Twice.
yeah, but I couldn't even remember that. Like, it's used
Oh,
apparently
give yourself a break.
repeatedly.
Run from that anxiety. Give yourself a break. So, what this proves, this
I'm
particular
incredibly
phrase,
lucky.
well, aside from that, this proves that God's house is not a phrase that's only used when people are arguing about what color carpet to put in or whether or not to dance in there, stuff like that. So it's actually in the Bible. It's in any. Great day. I mean, great day as in You know what I mean.
In God's house.
In God's house. We'll be back shortly to sing a proper hymn to close today's episode out. And, well, that's just what we're going to do. So we'll be back shortly. Congratulations, Jason. Big day.
Good job.
Yep.
All kinds of luck.
Yep. I feel real kind of dumb now.
Oh, wow. What a great contestant and a fine sport today on Innie or Outie, America's almost favorite new game show. Study up, future guest people. You're next in the hot seat for Innie or Outie.
You know, I remember back in the 70s when the Mike the Baptist hymnal was actually almost complete. There were some missing parts, and it was on purpose because I remember the meetings, like, do we want to close it now and seal it up and say this is it? And a lot of good people and the younger people that were on that committee at that time, I remember them talking very passionately about this. There's other music besides the 70s, Mike, and we need to leave the little space for those coming, just as we did for those who were before. This is why the Mike the Baptist hymnal has the occasional thing that's either, on the back side or the front side of the 70s. This particular hymn, there was a version of it in the 70s, which I think is the version we're doing today, but it's been done so many times in so many different decades. And I just wanted to point out that the Mike the Baptist hymnal is not that stringent. It's not about denominations, stuff like that. It's about meaningful hymns. I made all that up on the spot, you can tell.
Sounded good.
But it's quite fun. Thanks for being with us today. We're going to sing this hymn and then we will close out. And we're going to do the best we can. Some of these hymns are difficult because they're so high church that they're hard to sing. But we're going to do the best we can out of love for you, the people. Like a fool, I went and stayed too long. Now I'm wondering if your love's still strong. Ooh, baby, here I am, signed, sealed, delivered, I'm yours. It's typed, it says it right there. Then that time I went and said goodbye. Now I'm back and not ashamed to cry. Ooh, baby, here I am, signed, sealed, delivered, I'm yours. Here I am, baby.
Ooh.
Signed, sealed, delivered, I'm yours. Here I am, baby.
Sign.
No, I want to hear you do that again. Let's start up. Here I am, baby.
Oh.
It's supposed to be an ah.
Ooh.
Signed, sealed, delivered, I'm yours.
You're welcome.
Oh, you said that with such passion. Oh my gosh!
Felt it well up within me.
Hey, sincerely, thanks for being with us. We're just Christians.
Try not to cuss.
Oh,
Listen, buddy, we did. That's good.
that was hilarious right there.
Mike the Baptist.